All right, today we're going to dive into one of the simplest, but also one of the most powerful tools you have for dealing with anger. It's a technique called breath counting.
You know that feeling, right? Your mind is just spinning, your heart's pounding, you feel totally hijacked by anger. But what if the off switch wasn't some complicated strategy? What if it was something you have with you, literally, right this second?
Oh yeah, it's such a familiar feeling. You just get stuck in this loop, don't you? Replaying that conversation, that comment, over and over again. And you can feel it in your body. Your shoulders get tight, you clench your jaw. It's like your body is gearing up for a fight, even when the danger is just a thought.
So this isn't just about feeling mad. It's like a full-body takeover. And that is exactly the problem we're going to tackle. You know this mental spin cycle? It actually has a name. It's called rumination. It's that habit of just obsessively focusing on what's bothering you. And here's the thing you have to get. It doesn't solve anything. In fact, it's like pouring gasoline on the fire of your anger. It just keeps it burning hotter and longer.
Okay, so how do we stop it? You know you can't just tell your brain to calm down, right? It never works. You have to give it a different job to do. And that's where we find this kind of manual override.
And that manual override is breath counting. Now, this is not a new idea. This is an ancient practice, been around for well over 1,000 years in traditions like Zen. And the concept behind it is just so elegant and simple. You give your mind a really gentle, repetitive task, the counting, to pull its attention away from that angry, spinning state.
And I love this little piece of history. This technique was actually developed for people whose minds felt, well, too restless for just sitting in silence. They called it the monkey mind, that feeling of jumping from one thought to the next. So if you've ever felt like that, like your mind just won't sit still, this was made for you.
This is exactly why we call it a manual override. Think about it. Your breathing is pretty much the only thing in your autonomic nervous system, the system that runs your heart rate, digestion, all that automatic stuff, that you can also control consciously. That's not just a nice idea, it's physiology. Your breath is a direct lever you can pull to change how you feel.
All right, so we get the what and the why. Let's get to the how, and you'll see it is so simple, and that's the beauty of it. Okay, here's the basic version. First, just get comfortable. You don't have to change your breath, just let it be natural. Then, on your next inhale silently to yourself, just say 1. And on the exhale, 1. Then inhale 2, exhale 2. You just do that all the way up to 10. And once you hit 10, you start right back over at 1. That's it.
Now listen, this is the most important part. You are going to lose count, 100% guaranteed. Your mind will wander. And that is not a failure. That's part of the process. The real practice is that moment you notice, that aha moment of, oh wait, I'm thinking about work again. And then you just gently, without any judgment, bring your focus back to the count. That little return, that's the magic. That's the mental push-up.
And look, you can play with this. If counting both the in-breath and the out-breath is too much, no problem. Just count the exhales, maybe from 1 to 5. Or if you're out for a walk, you could try counting one number for every couple of steps. The whole point is to find a version that feels easy and accessible for you.
Okay, so this sounds nice and all, but what's actually happening in your brain and your body when you do this? Let's geek out on the science for a minute.
Think of your nervous system as having 2 modes. You've got the fight or flight system, that's the gas pedal. When you're angry, that thing is floored. But you also have the rest and digest system. That's your brake. And it turns out that slow, rhythmic breathing is one of the quickest ways to tap that brake and tell your whole body, hey, we can calm down now. And get this, how fast does it work? It's kind of shocking, actually. Studies on paced breathing show that you can see measurable changes in your body, like your heart rate slowing down, in as little as 16 seconds. That's just one cycle. That is an incredibly fast-acting tool.
And here's what's happening upstairs, in the brain. When your mind drifts off, that's a part of your brain called the default mode network just doing its thing. It's the autopilot. But that moment you notice you're off track, that's another network waking up and saying, hey, over here. Then when you intentionally shift your focus back to counting, you're using your brain's executive control network. So every single time you restart the count, you're literally strengthening the parts of your brain responsible for focus and self-awareness. It's a workout for your brain. Okay, so let's tie all of this cool science back to the main event, anger. How does this simple counting exercise actually put the brakes on that hijacked feeling?
Well, it works in a few key ways. First, it just interrupts that angry thought loop. It gives your brain something else to focus on. Second, it physically calms you down by hitting the brakes on your nervous system. Third, and this is huge, it creates a tiny bit of space, a buffer, between the feeling of anger and your reaction to it. And finally, like we just saw, it's building that muscle of just catching yourself.
And look, this isn't just some nice idea. The science on this is really solid. Big reviews of tons of studies have found that things that calm our bodies down physically, and breathing is at the top of that list, are super effective at reducing anger and aggression. Plain and simple, it works.
All right, so how do we put this into practice? How do we make it a real tool you can use every day? First off, forget about needing an hour. Just 2 or 3 minutes can completely reset your system. And the best part, you can do it anywhere. At your desk, waiting in line, sitting in your car. It's totally silent and invisible. The real trick is to try it when you first feel that little spark of anger, or maybe even before you walk into a situation you know is going to be stressful.
And honestly, this is what makes it so powerful. You don't need a special cushion. You don't need a quiet room. You don't need an app. You have your breath, which means you have this tool with you always.
So I'll leave you with this question. The next time you feel that flash of anger, that heat rising, forget about doing it perfectly. Can you just give yourself the space of one single counted breath? Just one. Inhale 1, exhale 1. Sometimes that's all it takes to change everything.